setting up what is a rather remarkable split screen now, where you have Maduro's son in Venezuela. This is the video here. Again, this is happening just literally in the last maybe 5 minutes or so, speaking to the Venezuelan National Assembly at the same time that his father in this split screen is in court in Manhattan in New York City to face these U.S.-brought charges. I want to go to Gabe Gutierrez, our man on the ground in Colombia. And Gabe, this is a family matter for the Maduro family. You look at Celia Flores, of course, the Venezuelan first lady, who is also facing charges in this indictment, somebody who has been an influential figure in Venezuela in her own right, former attorney general there. She had obviously been part of the legislative branch. This is her being walked in, as you can see, by federal officials as she arrived on U.S. soil. She has also obviously retained an attorney here, or has a defense attorney, and is facing charges alongside her husband, Gabe.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. Incredibly influential. It's a bit of an understatement, really. And Nicolás Maduro calls her Silita. And in the language of Chavismo, she is known as not just the first lady, but the first combatant. Now, yes, Nicolás Maduro met her about 30 years ago, and they have been inseparable ever since. They've been partners for a long time, got married a little over a decade ago. And when Maduro became president of Venezuela, she essentially faded a little bit into the background behind the scenes, but still wielded an immense amount of power. She is seen as the power behind the throne in Venezuela. So while a lot of people around the world may have looked at this indictment over the weekend and wonder why she was taken into custody, as you pointed out, Hallie, she wields a lot of influence inside Venezuela, and that's partly because she was seen as a huge proponent of Chavismo. Hugo Chavez, of course, the socialist leader of Venezuela before Maduro. Maduro is seen as his protege. So this is a couple that has been a political power couple in the extreme sense. And the U.S. administration certainly feels that she was heavily involved in the trafficking of drugs alongside her husband, according to that indictment. So, yes, she is facing those charges with her husband, Nicolás Maduro, and it comes after an incredible political career that, again, she, as the First Lady, has continued to wield an immense amount of power behind the scenes, Hallie.
Gabe, stick with me for a second, because you talk about what these leaders in Venezuela have been called. Celia Flores, as you say, the first combatant, if you will. How about the Prince, of course, Maduro's son, his nickname as he is now speaking. Part of this sweeping indictment brought by the Department of Justice, obviously not somebody who was extracted by the United States in that military operation. As all of this is happening, these questions of leadership in Venezuela, I want to share with you, and again, we are getting this in live now. This is from Venezuelan State TV, and our team tells us that Maduro Guerra, the son here, has made a nomination on the legislative piece of it. The brother of Delcy Rodriguez has now been nominated to be president of the National Assembly. This is happening, and I say this not to get too in the weeds on Venezuela, the Venezuela legislative branch, but to point out that there are real questions now of leadership moving forward. We have seen this conflict between Delcy Rodriguez, again, to remind people, the vice president of Venezuela, who's been sworn in as the interim president, who has been defiant over the course of the last couple of days, largely saying Nicolás Maduro is the president of Venezuela, calling for him to be released as well. And President Trump setting up a conflict with her on that, Gabe.
Yeah, certainly. It can be argued in Venezuela right now. Delcy Rodriguez, you mentioned, she was elevated to be president over the last couple of days, but then you heard that contradictory words from President Trump saying that she was basically on board with what the U.S. administration has been doing. She, however, as you pointed out, has been defiant. There's been some question about exactly what conversation she has had with the administration, how much she has spoken to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and then the shocker over the weekend, Hallie, of President Trump coming in and basically downplaying the Venezuelan opposition. Maria Corina Machado accepted the Nobel Peace Prize not too long ago. She is in limbo at this point, and the president saying that she essentially did not have enough respect in the country to be the next opposition, or to be the next leader of Venezuela. So certainly a huge power vacuum at this point, and huge questions about how any government in Venezuela deals with the United States. We have been speaking about Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday saying that the U.S. would run Venezuela not in practice but in policy, and then President Trump on board Air Force One overnight saying that no, essentially the U.S. does plan to run Venezuela and certainly to take control of the oil reserves in the country. So you're rightly pointing out, we're looking at those live pictures inside Venezuela right now. The National Assembly essentially trying to figure out what happens next and what, if any, resistance will be posed to the U.S. administration. So many unanswered questions right now as we wait this court appearance.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.